Alrighty, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. My name is Bojan Petreski. Today is May 11th, 2022. We'll be doing the Nailing FX and Crypto session for today. The disclaimer is running there for your use, your understanding that this is for educational and instructional purposes only. Trading the markets, especially nowadays, involves a lot of risk. So let's see what we can do to kind of either mitigate or manage some of that risk so that we can get into trades that may or may not be right for everyone, right? Some trades may be right for some folks, some trades might not be. We're going to see what we can do. Last time that we were here, let me just take a look. That was last month, I believe it was April 6th. April 6th. Here we go. So, April 6th looks like we had 1, 2, 3 trades that we set up from then. We had a Euro USD trade that ended up not filling. No T2, no nothing. That one we set it up. Price was already kind of moving away. Didn't come to fill us. It is what it is. The next one that we had was the a dollar Swiss franc trade. Of course, this is, just me going over screenshots I've taken of previous trades. When they were screenshotted, that's what that purple line represents. If you're seeing this for the first time, I'll explain over it later. What matters the most to me is, transparency and just going over stuff that, if we looked at it and we said, okay, we're going to take this trade, we review it and say, hey, we took this trade, this is what happened. Or, hey, this trade did not fill, and this is why. So right now, let's go ahead and get to the majors. Let's go to the USD Swiss franc. That's that trade there. Looks like this one did fill. So let's take a look and see what exactly happened on this trade. Let's go back in time to where it was, and there it is. Why? So this trade was a small winner or loser depending on when you got executed on it. This was the entry point, right? April 12th. And that's when it filled. If you kept it on, if it didn't, that's okay too. Obviously this ran to, ran quite a bit. Let's call it like that. Ran incredibly a lot, right? But the truth and the reality of it is we can't say that this trade was the, absolute, killer that this runner was, because that would not be true. The truth of the matter is that this trade, we got in and we got time stopped, and depending on, when you looked at it, for example, I looked at it a little late. So for me, it was a small winner, but it could have been a small winner or a small loser depending on where and when you got executed in your platform and the spread and so on. But the reality is, am I going to sit here and tell you, oh yeah, we took this trade right here and we got out all the way up here right before this UFO. I'd love that to be the case, but that was just not the case in this scenario. Obviously, we were very right on the direction. We were getting right at the beginning of a massive uptrend on the dollar Swiss franc on the daily. However, that was just not the case. We did not get the fill, and we got the fill. It ended up being a time stop, and I'll go over what a time stop is. Okay. The XMR trade, this was a crypto trade that we looked at. We were looking to short XMR at 220.51, and it actually ended up being a small winner so this was our entry, 220.51, stop loss at 225.16, T1 was at 215.88, T2 was at 209.70. The exit of this trade, we got T1, we got stopped out on this pullback. Okay, so the reason why this was a small winner, not a loser or break even, was because of the following. Let's just compare. This is the before, and this is the setup, right? Our setup said 224.96 is the stop. So how come our stop is at 220.86 right now? Well, as I see some familiar names here in the attendee list here, so you probably know what I'm about to say, but for those of you that are not, after we got that T1, right? We got that T1 on this. This is where we got filled here. After we got that T1, we are allowed to move our stop to a new location depending on what's going on with that market. And in this scenario, that T1 got moved to 220.86. Unfortunately, ended up wicking out there. We got out for a small winner, and that's that. We recorded as such. All right, so those were the couple of trades that we had from the 6th that filled or didn't fill, depending on what it is. What are we doing today? Well, we're not just going to talk about old trades, right? We're going to look for some new trades. Given the fact that there's just a lot of movement happening in crypto right now, look at that. My God. Okay, so I'm going to start with crypto. If you guys are not trading crypto, just let me know. I think the majority here is probably Forex traders. But if you have any objection with me starting with crypto, just let me know. I'll switch back to Forex right now. It's just that we had Bitcoin was up like close to 2% this morning, right before, I would say right about half an hour ago. And now we're looking at down 5%. Again, this is a huge pullback again from Bitcoin. 11% the day before, 5%, 4%, 1%, 8%, so 5%. So overall, like just from the perspective of the past few days, it's just been absolute slaughter. The reason why I want to look at this is, not to pick the bottom of Bitcoin and say, all right, this is where it's going to bounce from. All right. I'd like to see if there's any potential to get on this trend as it's pulling down. Okay. Maxi, start with crypto. Need to understand what's going on with Terra, USD, UST, and Luna. In a nutshell, based from what I've read and from my experience, it was a difference with a stablecoin essentially decoupling temporarily from the dollar. It will eventually stabilize, more or less, could take some time, right? The reasoning why is Luna had to sell off a lot of Bitcoin holdings, and obviously with Bitcoin going down so far, their money wasn't worth that much. However, as it is with most of these stable coins, they do end up stabilizing. It's just that you can't just infinitely offer people 20% interest on a stable coin and take a hit such as the one that we've seen in Bitcoin going from, 69K to less than 30 right now and not take a beating on your holdings, right? And of course, this is decentralized money we're talking about. We're not talking about a Fed that can just decide, you know what, today we're going to print $3 billion. Well, nobody can just print 3 billion Bitcoin, right? They got to come up with that money somewhere. How they come up with it, what their dev team does and their finance team does to get themselves back to be coupled to the dollar, to be pegged to the dollar, to be pegged as a stable coin, and obviously have their holdings not be massacred like they were, is entirely up to them. And of course, there's no guarantees, there's no security, there's no FDIC, there's no none of that when you're holding money in a stable coin. I myself have True USD, which hasn't decoupled yet. But of course it could, right? Any one of these could. So if there's any questions on that, let me know. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's see if we have anything going on. Of course, I have to go down to smaller time frames to see if there's any potential for us to even grab something here. So let's go ahead and just start going over this stuff before the you might say, well, look at this. Like we pretty much kind of missed this, right? But let's analyze it as if this is the first time we're looking at it. Of course, we need to go over it as if this is the first time we're looking at it because there are some new names that I see here in the chat box in the attendee list. So, right, a typical chart that you would have would not have some of the things I have loaded here. That's because I utilize a patented and trademark technology called auto UFOs. Auto UFOs essentially is a package of proprietary software that essentially gives you a system that you could trade. The first things first that you might see is these flying saucers, right? These things up here, also here, right? So those, kind of like their name says, those are the auto UFOs. Those are called auto UFOs because they are, number one, automated. They show up automated on your charts. And number two, UFO stands for, what am I doing here? And there we go. Sorry about that. Those are auto UFOs because they represent unfilled orders. Okay? Because think of it this way: what does this, the price chart actually represent? Like, what does it represent? Right? It represents filled orders. This is where the orders got filled. Okay? And that's what it is. This is all this is. It's just where orders got filled. That's all it is. But what we are going for is where are there some orders that are still unfilled? Where could there be some larger stacks of orders that could give us a potential entry that has a high probability of succeeding? Does it have a 100% chance of succeeding? Absolutely not. But we're just looking for a stacked opportunity, a stacked probability that could give us that. How we go about that is the following. The first thing that we utilize and we see is, what typically people call trend, we call auto climate. Now, we call it an auto climate because climate, I feel like, represents it better than trend, right? Because a trend is not easy to quantify. And you need to be able to quantify trend, right? How do you, right now, anybody could look at this chart and be like, oh yeah, this is a downtrend. Okay, great. Okay, this is a downtrend, right? It's price is just going down. It's going from highers to lowers, even though it made a new high here and kind of fooled us, right? Well, this is obviously a downtrend. Well, then you might say, well, what if we look at it like this? Is it still a downtrend? Well, you could say, well, this looks like a sideways trend. It's not a downtrend. Okay. Well, what about if we just keep rolling down and back and up? And it's going to get confusing. So how do you clarify that? How do you give yourself clarity when you do that? Well, one way that I did that is by utilizing the auto climate. As you see, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here. The auto climate right here, and I just need to, sorry, there we go. I'm looking for something that I want to show you, but I can't show you because it's not there. The auto climate, as you see, has red thick dots, blue thick dots, and then thin dots like these guys. All right. And just to keep it easy, right? This is a red thick dot, right? These are representing confirmed down climates. The blue ones represent confirmed up climates right there. The thin ones represent unconfirmed. We don't care about the color climates. When something's unconfirmed, would you like to trade that? No, I wouldn't. Right? If something's unconfirmed, why would you try to waste your time trading it? I myself would not. All right, so this is kind of boding well for us. We may get a setup here. Right here would be, and just to kind of set the crap. I want to say we have a setup here, but it's not going to be the most fun of setups because I'll show you why. So in any scenario, moving back to the climate, right now we have a thick red dot. That means we have a confirmed down climate. Now we know the answer of where, which direction are we looking for? Are we looking for longs or shorts? Right now, we're looking for short opportunities. Okay, great. We answered the question of the direction. Now we need to answer the question of where do we get in and where do we get out, both for the stop and for the profit. The where gets answered similarly utilizing the auto UFO technology and just something that's very standard and found on most time frames. In this scenario, we're looking at the following. This is the hourly time frame. As you see here, that's a very common time frame. Highlight on the name common. It's found on just about every chart out there, right? It's a common time frame, 1 hour. And then we have here is the 8-minute time frame, the 8-minute, right? 8-minute is not a common time frame that you would see, right? It's probably available on most platforms because it's minutes, but it is not, something that you go on a drop-down menu and say, if you go to minutes here, right? I have it here, but as a favorite. But it typically will be, 1, 2, 3, 5, 15, 30, and then going into the hours, right? So it's not a comma. So what we call that is an edge time frame. Why do we call it an edge time frame? Because based on our back testing, based on our utilization of this plan, we have an edge when we utilize this platform when it comes to our entries, based on back tested data, not just based on, a crystal ball. So first things first here, what we're going to look at is the following. On this common time frame, we have a moving average represented in this blue line. That's the 9 EMA, as you see up here. That's this one. Its value is represented here, 30,702.50. Right? That's the value. What we want is this value at 30,700 to be enveloped by a UFO on this edge time frame. So as of right now, the moving average is about probably like here, right? It's bouncing a little bit. Let me draw that a little better, right? It's bouncing a little bit because the price is bouncing too. So this is about 30,700. Obviously, if price were to bounce all the way up to here, the moving average is going to do the same thing, right? So as the moving average is moving and this thing bounces, it's going to bounce too. So that means the moving average value will be enveloped by this red UFO. Now, this is actually, I confused it a little bit earlier, but this is actually a decent setup. So what this will do for us is, as you see, there's multiple numbers here in red. What's happening here is the following. We have a pretty substantial UFO that starts at this 815. This one goes all the way to 3175. However, there's also an overlapping UFO that goes from, and I'm just going to make this a different color just so it's easier to understand. There's also another UFO that is overlapping this one that's basically here. So we have stacked UFOs for entry here. So what does that mean? We have a trade. All right. So let me set that trade up, and accidentally deleted my auto UFOs here. So let's go ahead and add them back up. And not 3 times though. There's no reason for that. All right. So what we're going to do is, even though this seems like it's pulling back, it may give us an opportunity to take this. We're going to do the following. We're going to set up a trade. We're looking to short it, right? And something that I'm also going to qualify right now is the following. Our entry point is going to be at 3815.3, right? 3815.30. We're going to do take profit, stop loss. Our stop loss, where is it going to go? Well, it's going to go above these red UFOs, right? Because that's our entry point. So it needs to be above them. Where are we going to be proven wrong? Now, for Bitcoin and for crypto, I'm still testing, because it's extremely wiki sometimes. 31,776 is where this UFO stops. Now, do we want to give it a little bit of extra room? I would say yes, we should definitely give it a little bit of extra room. So I'm going to go to 96 here. So 31,796. So there's that. Our T1 is always going to be a 1-to-1. Okay, and I'll go about that in a bit. Why? Something that I want to leave in effect here is I don't want to leave this on for a week, because something that I like about the auto climate is this following. You see where it says here that currently it's the first down climate. That's why it says current here is the first one. And you see this STD and there's a down arrow here. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. You see this STD down, STD up. That just means standard deviation up, standard deviation down. So Bitcoin goes typically down for 5.23 hourly increments down and 5.23 hourly increments up, which is a little strange that it's completely the same. I've actually never seen that before. Just to be certain, that's very, like, I've never seen them be equal. So that's interesting to see. But that's what the data says. That's what these statistics say. So that's okay. What we do with that information is the following. We always round it up. That's the first thing. So this says 5.23. So this is actually 6. And the same thing for this one, right? It goes up for 6, goes down for 6 hourly candles. So that means for 6 hours, it makes sense. The opportunity is in our favor to go and take this trade. So what that's going to do for the time in force, I want to set a good until, right? And, 6 hours from now, it's 6:26 right now. So 6 hours from now would be 12:26. That way, I don't have to worry about this. If this, let's give it until 12:30. What this is going to do is going to provide you with a little bit of peace of mind, right? The technology is already there. This will expire today at 12:30 p.m. my time, which is 6 hours from now, right? 6 hours from now. We're going to place that trade. All right. And that's that. That's the setup for the first leg of the trade. Just like in Forex, we got to set up 2 legs because we're utilizing TradingView. Obviously, if you're using this on Binance, KuCoin, any other platform that you may be utilizing, this will be a little different for you. You can set this up to the order of, how much you want to risk and this and that. I actually set it up. Well, that shouldn't be 350, should be 300. Sorry, need to modify that just a little bit. Okay, so 0.3061 is the sell for the first leg. Now, but where are we going to actually make some money? Well, we're going to look at the hourly here and see if there's any opposing UFOs. What's an opposing UFO? Well, if our entry UFO is red, an opposing would be green. So is there a green UFO on this common time frame that we see here? And we realize that there isn't, right? There isn't an opposing UFO. So we can say we're going to trail stop this, but we still have to set up the second leg of the trade. So we do the same thing. We sell. Now, because of TradingView, you don't have to do this like this, but because of TradingView, I have to set it up a little bit, a little bit of a difference in the entry point. And this is so it doesn't cancel out my T2. Otherwise, it will. So I'm going to go with, you see here, 3815.2 instead of 0.3. This is just so it keeps this second leg. My stop remains the same. It's going to be at 31,796. Now my profit target, if I did have, let's say there was a green UFO around here at 28,000, and this is what it looked like, right? And this was the case, then what I would have done is, okay, I'm gonna put the target here based on the opposing UFO starting point, whatever the value would have been here. We don't have that. However, we're gonna set it up, let's just say, just for ambiguity reason, right? This isn't gonna happen overnight, right? But let's just say we're going to aim for 27,000 for whatever reason. Doesn't matter. And this one is going to still be the same thing. Good until today. If it does trigger, we'll have to modify it so it doesn't expire. But in the meantime, just so we know what we're doing, that's what it's going to look like. All right, so we have our trade set up. What's something that we need to do next? You know, bonus brownie points for anybody that's been here before. What's something that we need to do next before we move on to the next trade? I'm going to take a quick sip of my coffee while you guys answer that. Something very important has to happen before we take the next trade, before we start looking for the next trade. And that extremely important thing is the following. We have to mark what we looked at what time, and take a screenshot. So that way we know exactly what it is that we were looking for at the time when we were taking this trade. There's, you know, if you're scalping and doing scalp trades, this isn't easy to do, right? You're going to be, there's going to be an entire multitude of trades that is going to be presenting itself in front of you. But if you have the time and if you have the chance to take a screenshot of the trade that you're looking at, of what it looked like at the time when you opened this chart and said, you know what, this would be a good trade. You need to do that. You need to take that screenshot and you need to be able to show it to yourself in the future. And looking at it again, you should say, oh yeah, I took this trade because this, and this. Okay? So that's where we are right now. Let's take a look and see, is there anything green in this scenario? Absolutely not. Look at this, 20% down, 30% down, TLM. Holy crap, right? How's that? You wake up one day and then the next day, a third of the value is gone. That's crypto. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes you'll wake up, you'll be 30% up, and that happens too. Okay, so right now, you know, everything's deep in the red. It's not unexpected. It's not unheard of, as you see. You know, that's what we're currently dealing with and working with. And this might not fill. It might fill. We're going to see how it goes. Let's start looking at some of the majors. If you guys have any requests on something you'd like to see, you know, please feel free to type it. In the meantime, if not, oh, look at that. Big move on the Aussie. You know, let me know either way in the chat box. If you're following along with what I'm showing you here, please, you know, let me know. If you're confused and you want some more clarification, I would appreciate it if you could go to this website and, you know, you can sign up for the free membership. It's, as I said, it's free. You'll get notified anytime you that we open up anything out there. You can see what we offer, how it works, and the whole nine. You can ask questions, etc. But in the meantime, I'm going to look for trade opportunities to see what we got going on for us here. So for the Aussie, we do see that on the hourly, well, let's start with the daily first. Let's go, you know, downwards first from the highest to the lowest. All right, so on the daily, we see that we are in the fourth day down out of typically 5. And right now, we do see that we are pushing up a whole percent up on the Aussie USD. So there's a good chance that the Dixie might be taking a beating right now. As we see, it's down 0.3%. Of course, this is, I have it on the delayed data here, but to see the Aussie move 1%, the New Zealand dollar to move 1%, and of course the dollar first pairs are all losing money. That means that there's some weakness with the dollar right now. Also losing 0.5% on the CAD, right? There's definitely something going on there. So let's go ahead and see if we can find some trades on our Forex pairs here. And this one, again, we have a whole, 7.5 hours before this turns into the end of the climate. As we see right now, the Aussie is pushing fairly high. The moving average being at 75.87 and current price being at 700, right? So that's about 60 pips away, more or less. Do we think that there's a potential for a trade with an overlapping UFO, not just from the 55-minute time frame, but also the daily is going to help us there? Let's see if we can find something. So 70.58 looks like there is a UFO, and it's pretty massive, which is, both good and bad. Because you will essentially be taking a position on a trade that, this is how you can tell. As you see, this is the colors right here. So this is the UFO that you would be taking if we were to be taking this short. It would be from here, from 71.354 all the way through 75.86. 75.86 is currently where price is. So you could take a little bit of a more conservative approach and take it on the 76.31 right here for the entry. But your stop is, will have to be above 71.354. Has to be in the white space above a UFO. So, we can definitely set this up, and it wouldn't hurt to already have on there. So I'm going to take it on the more conservative one. So it's 0.70631 entry point. Stop loss has to be at 0.71354. Okay, now a couple of things that needed to be kind of discussed, and those of you that have probably been here with me before, you'll probably remember something very simple that I'm going to show you. Because Forex is decentralized, not everybody has the same pip value, same spread, same everything. So something that kind of keeps you out of trouble's way is having the following. Whenever we're buying in Forex, we always round up. In this scenario, we're selling, so we're always going to round down for entry. So rounding down, this is going to be 0.7063. That's the rounding down part. The stop is going to be rounded up. So it's going to be 7136. And we're going to add 7 pips on top of it. So that's going to be 7141 will be the price. And then for the target is the opposing common time frame UFO minus 2 pips. So, or I'm sorry, plus 2 pips as we're shorting. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to round this down to 7063. We're going to round this up to 6, right? And we said we're going to add 7 more pips. So 36 plus 7 is 43 actually. Not 5, so 7. That's my bad. So that means we're risking 80 pips for this one. Now, this one I'm going to set to expire by tomorrow, 5/12 at 6:30. And it's not going to be 6:30 because we need to account for the 7 hours that we would have left. So it's going to be expiring at 1:30. Right? 6 plus 7 is 13. So 13:30 tomorrow. All right, let's sell that. Now we're going to do the same exact thing. One thing I need to modify. For Forex, we're going to risk 150, not 300 per trade. That's just my rule. You're welcome to follow it. You're welcome to follow your own. This is entirely up to you. All right, now that's the first leg of the trade. What do we do for the second one? Well, look at that. We have opposing UFOs. So what does that mean? That means that our final target on this trade will be here, 0.66832. Right? We have an opposing UFO. We're shorting this. So the opposing common time frame on the daily time frame UFO is this one. So let's go ahead and sell it. Now we said it's 0.7630, right? That was our entry point. Now for this one, again, because this is just trading view, it's not you, it's not me, it's trading views thing. I have to change the entry point so it doesn't cancel out my setup. I'm still going to be risking 80 pips, but this one I'm going to be doing, it's going to be 71430. And my entry point has to be 70631. And the reason why I add this one is so it makes the entry point different. It's not because there's some, that's the right way to do it. It's because that's how TradingView is. In order for me to keep both legs of the trade separate, I have to have a different entry point. Now my my final target is 66832. All right, same thing here. We're going to be rounding it up. So this is 4. And we're going to add 2 more pips. So this is 6. All right, so we're risking 80 pips to make, 377. All right, and this one, same thing. It's going to expire tomorrow at 1:30. So let's go ahead and sell that as well. And there's that second leg down here. All right, now what do we do here? Again, before we move on, we're going to put a vertical here, put a vertical here, and we're going to just save this so I don't forget it, even though it's auto. Take a screenshot, 2022-0512, AUD, USD, and this is the daily setup. Boom. So that way, you know exactly what it is that you were looking for at this exact time. All right. So this may trigger, it may not trigger. Who knows? We'll see. But so far, you guys have been pretty quiet. I know some of you have joined me several times before, so this is probably just, rinse and repeat for you. But if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have something you want to discuss, please feel free to type it in the chat. If you don't feel like typing it in the chat to everybody, you're more than welcome to send it to me directly via the, to, instead of to everyone, you can send it to host and presenter on the chat box in the WebEx system. Ultimately, if you are looking at something and you're not sure and you want to just, ask me a question, you can also send me an email, bojan@tradictive.com. Is the email address. Other than that, the Aussie may actually end up triggering, especially since it's clearing these highs here at this previous high here from the 9th of May. So this may trigger. We may get into it, which would be nice. Not sure why my what's it called is acting up my trading view, but there we go. Just take another screenshot of this because I just realized I took a screenshot without the all the UFOs being on there. So let's override the same screenshot. Aussie USD daily setup done. All right. Before we go, because it's almost time, let's see if we can get another trade here somewhere. Okay. We'll move that back there. This is currently pushing up against, but there's no UFOs. Let's see what it looks like on the 4-hour with the 21-minute. Okay. Unconfirmed on the 4-hour. As you see there, unconfirmed. Moving on to the next one on the hourly. All right, confirmed down climate on the hourly. And in a UFO right now, but trading well above the moving average, as you see. Moving average at 1.0548. Current price is 1.056. Nothing here. Looking at the New Zealand dollar next. Unconfirmed on the hourly. Moving on to the 4-hour. First confirmed down, however, trading above the moving average. Massive spike. Guys, did something happen? Like, what is going on? Is there news for something? Like, something is, I mean, this was earlier, so nobody really cares about that much. This hasn't posted. Just massive moves all over the place, and it's, you know, it's piquing my interest. Usually news moves this massively, not just random price movements. So confirmed on the 4-hour. Okay, looks like the Bitcoin trade did trigger. So let's go to BTC. Looks like we're in the short. Touched a little bit and then pulled back rapidly from it. So, you know, it's great to see this. As you see, you know, this is this is just what TradingView does sometimes. As you see, you know, this one I didn't separate the entry points, the legs, so the second leg is just cut off that we had at the 27,000. So for this one, you're just gonna have to watch it a little bit and make sure that you execute according to it. Something that I typically do, especially when I get into a trade, is I'll also throw another vertical line. Only this one is not this. It's going to be a straight line. Where's the, I keep forgetting. It's going to be a straight purple line, and I'm going to do this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So if within this time period, I don't get my T1, and I'm going to square this off as well. If within this time period, I don't get my T1 or stopped out in this soon to be purple square, if I don't get my T1 or stopped out within this purple square, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to close this trade at market. So that's something that I wanted to tell you about. That's the time stop rule. Meaning if within this time the trade is just, you know, the trade is just doing this whole time, it's just like, you know, just moving sideways. As soon as this new candle prints, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close that at market. I'm going to hit this little X and it's going to close it at market. All right, that's the time stop rule because we got so much stuff working for us, right? So this trade should work, but it's not. Let's say it's not, and that's okay, right? It's looking like it might be hitting the stop loss right now, and that's okay. So to me, it looks like it hit it, but I don't quite understand what's going on. Maybe it didn't. So anyways, it should be. I think it did. What's the high? The high was 31,872.2. Our stop was at 31,796. It should have hit the stop and closed this trade out, but it didn't. Not quite sure. I think it's something with TradingView. As you see here, it's like frozen. So maybe we refresh it and it's going to be gone. F5 reload. And somehow, okay, so there we go. Okay, good. So that one, if you were in it, you got stopped out, it's out, it's closed. And that's that. And we're going to also take a screenshot. Save that. Save. 2022 0512 BTC USDT That's on the 1 hour. That's what was so different about it. Exit, stop loss. All right. The reason why it looked a little different because we actually took this on the hourly and the 8-minute. And that's why I was like, wait a minute, why does it seem so weird? That's what it was. We were supposed to look at on the 8-minute. Because our setup was on the hourly, right? This is what the setup looked like. And that's what happened. So looks like we got wicked out. It is what it is. It's already pulling back again from it. But that's just the nature of the beast. All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.